Okay, good afternoon, folks. My name is Kristen Collins. I work alongside the team here at One Digital, and my role today is to walk you through some of the main features here of a partner system we have called Employee Navigator. And Employee Navigator, just to give you some scope on the system itself before we dive in, we are partners with this system. So Employee Navigator is their own technology company, but we have partnered with them. What does that partnership mean to you folks? What that means is we have teams within One Digital here helping to support the system. So we have folks that are going to build the system with your plans, rates, rules. We also have a team that's going to be here uploading your current employee census. And then we have another team here that's going to be helping with the enrollment side of things. So the enrollment side of things is where we want to focus today. And to put a little more scope around the system, Employee Navigator, what is it doing? What is the benefit of the system? What we're doing here is providing a single space for employees to come in to do their benefit enrollment. Now, the benefit enrollment can be as a new hire, it can be an open enrollment time, and it also can be during those mid-year life events where an employee needs to initiate a change. So at its face, what we're doing is providing a space, an online secure portal for employees to do their enrollment. The other piece of this is what can happen throughout the year. So the goal of the system here is to use it 24/7. It's accessible to the employee 24/7. Not only does it handle the enrollment side of things, but all throughout the year, you as HR probably get more common questions. What are my co-pays? What's my deductible? What I'm enrolled in? What's my effective date? All kinds of general questions that you typically get. Well, the employee is going to have a space to come in to the system and see all of that at their fingertips 24/7. So what I'm going to do is take some time to walk us through what it looks like to put an employee into the system, and then also what that employee is going to experience as well. At the very end of this here, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple tools that are super beneficial for you with HR in the way of being able to have detailed data enrollments at your fingertips. So what I'm going to do here, we mentioned we're in the system and we have the ability to see the ability. Oh, and somebody made a comment here. I'll just make an additional comment. Salary changes. Yes, salary changes can be changed in the system here. Those are pieces that can get updated in here and certainly might affect voluntary life insurance if it's salary-based, basic life insurance, or disability coverage. So when those things happen in here, that's where we have the team assisting with the enrollment side of things to make sure that those things get updated at the carrier level as well. Hopefully they answered the question there. One of the things I want to do is put some scope around the screen I'm on. This is a demo site, and what we've done is build in here hypothetical plans. We've put in some fake employees here, and this gives you some scope around what you're going to see as HR. Now, as HR, what you're going to see here is the ability to come into the system and see your main screen where you can update and make changes here to your quick links. This will allow you to come in and customize these and make those hyperlinks things that you more frequently would need to access here. Now, one of the other things in here is company stats. Company stats is important, and I particularly like this portion where you can see what's going on with new hires. So this is important if you hire a few folks and they're within that waiting period and you're giving them maybe a 15-day or 30-day allowance to do their benefit enrollment. This is going to give you a snapshot of any of those new hires that are still within that enrollment period. Now at that point, I can click into the number 10 here. I can see the employees that have not finished their enrollment just yet. Now, this is great, keeping that snapshot here instead of you manually having to log who has or has not completed enrollment. It's a great feature in here. But one of the other things we're going to work to set up is reminder emails. So those that are in that new hire period, they are going to receive reminder emails. So there isn't that manual step where you're going to have to, go after that employee to make sure they know they have enrollment left to do, there's going to be an automatic reminder that goes out to those folks. Now, what I like to do here is give you a little scope. I spoke about our team and their role in setting up the system here. So there's a tab up top that says benefits. This is the area where our team is going to build the benefit structure. So this is going to include eligibility period, rates, contribution levels, premiums, all of that gets configured in the system here. So that gets done at the initial enrollment. It also is done at each open enrollment thereafter. So the takeaway with this is that no time are you going to have to come in here and learn how to configure the system. That's what we do here at One Digital for you. Now, we're also going to put in here applicable documents. So summaries, SBCs, provider links, all the things that the employee needs when they're making their plan decisions. Okay. And last but not least, we're certainly going to put in your company information along with your company logo. So where you're seeing that One Digital, you can envision your logo there instead. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and we're going to paint the picture that we have you set up. We've put in your plans, rates, rules. We've loaded in your current employee census, and that's all ready to go in here. So now we have the ability to go ahead and put the new hire in the system. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add a demo employee right here. So I'm going to click this link. If it were a legitimate new hire, the very first thing you would place in here would be the employee's social security number. My system is going to auto assign me a social, so I don't see that as a first step, but you would place that in there as a new hire came in. Now, what's my goal on this page? My goal in this area is to go ahead and put in the core of the employee record. Now, the core is going to contain some very basic information. The first tab on that employee here is going to be demographics. You see that I've set this up with a very limited amount of information that we need, so we just want to set up the core here. Now, when I hit next, we need to know some key things about employment. I'm going to highlight 5 of them here that stand out as keys here. Keep in mind, when we build the system, we're doing it in relation to your benefit offerings. So we want to make sure all of the plan set up in the build is applicable for what you offer on your benefits. That's why this area is key. First of all, we've got a hire date. That's an obvious one there. But the system has the ability for us to set up different classes. This may or may not apply to you. Some of our groups might have a class 1 and a class 2 maybe in basic life insurance. So the benefit offering might be different in that scenario. So in that case, we might want to include 2 different classes. We can name classes whatever we choose, but the goal behind that is to tie the right benefit structure to that class. So the employee is seeing what they're supposed to see and nothing more. So in my case, we've thrown in here 4 different classes. I'm going to go ahead and choose the default. The payroll group here is important because we want to understand your payroll cycle and also understand what that's going to mean for the employee and their cost per pay period. So that's going to be a key piece in there. We can put in more than 1 pay cycle if necessary, but in my case, we've just put 1 in here. The last 2 in here are important simply because if we're offering salary-based life insurance or we're offering disability coverage, we want to make sure the salary's in there because it will cross over and be showing the employee the volumes and the premiums assigned based on the salary that's in the system here. So that's going to be a key thing there, especially if you offer that salary-based life insurance or disability coverage. So those 5 are the key items here. We want to make sure are here to set up the employee record. This may or may not apply to some of you. There is an ACA module that is optional and can be used in the system. So for those that have that requirement, the federal requirement to file for ACA, it might be an option for you. It might be a situation where you want to use the module in here that's optional, and it's a piece that you can consider depending on your scenario and what your requirements are. Okay, so right now I'm going to disregard this section, but that is a module you can take advantage of if you need it. Now I'm going to hit next here, and really the next 2 pages are going to make life very simple. When we're just talking about enrolling in benefits, these last 2 steps are going to involve hitting finish up And this last space is sending an email to the employee so then they can be prompted to come into the system and do their benefit enrollment. Okay. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead. I have my email here. I'm going to hit send. Now I talked through a couple of those pages, but from the HR side of things, that's all it took to get the shell of the record created. So talk through a few of the items, but really when you put somebody into the system, it might take you 30 seconds to a minute to get that new hire placed into the system. Now I'm all done. So from the HR side of things, I could go into their profile. I actually have a best kept secret as HR. You always have the ability to manage enrollment on behalf of the employee if you need to. Okay, so that's always there for you as HR. And then if you had another new person, you as HR could add the next person into the system. But I'm all done. So I'm going to hit finish, and it's going to take me right back to my dashboard. So I've shown you what it looks like when we're adding that new hire into the system. They're good to go. From the employee side, what I'd like to do is shift a little bit. Now we're going to go to what the employee experiences. This is a sample email. We've gone ahead and just used a template in the system. This email is customizable, so it can be changed to communicate however you would like to. But the goal of this is to introduce to the employee that they have a space to go to do their enrollment. So they will be provided a registration link, which they'll be able to click on here. And the username is actually going to default to their email address. So that's going to be in there already. And they're going to be able to go ahead and set up their password. So they're going to go ahead and register here. They haven't been through the system before, so they will get a welcome message as their first vision. Here's coming through the system, and it's letting them know they have access to their benefits 24/7 here. Now, I was placed by HR into a class that has benefits tied to it. So when I see this here, it's letting me know I have new hire enrollment that is required of me. I'm going to go ahead and hit Let's Begin. I am now taken to my dashboard for my first time through. We do see that there's a logo there. Now that logo is going to be your logo, not ours. And we're also going to be able to show the employee how much time they're going to have in the enrollment process. So in my default system, we've set it to allow them to enroll for 30 days. We can change that. It can be 60, 15, 10, whatever it is that you allow, we can change that up. Now the employee does have access to some other tools in here, but I do like to walk us through the enrollment first. Okay, so they're going to go ahead and click Start Enrollment. They will be given a quick synopsis of what they have to do here. Look at their demographics, enroll in their benefits, and sign off or acknowledge those. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and click Get Started. They're going to be able to see here the first page, which is the personal information. Now, much of this is filled in because we had done so on the HR side. But one of the takeaways that I always like to have folks think about is when we're doing a system like this, it's going to give us the opportunity to make sure we collect all of the necessary information. When we're dealing with paper enrollments especially, we have that situation where we're going back and forth with the employee. Maybe we have a missed field, or maybe it's not legible. Those are all things that get resolved by using a system here. We can require certain fields in the system to make sure that we collect the necessary pieces. Now the employee is going to be in each page, and there's going to be a progress bar. They can click where it says View Steps and see all of the pages they're going to be expected to go through. Now I'm going to click Save and Continue. We're going to come into a space with an address. Now probably what's striking here is there is no address in the system. So the takeaway here is you have the ability as HR to put in their address on the HR side when you first place them in the system. I like to leave it blank because what that does is it allows the employee to type that in from scratch. You never know, maybe there was an address change between the time that they were told they're hired in that first day. So it's nice to be able to have them type it in from scratch. But if you would like to place it in on the HR side, you can do that as well. Now you'll notice as I'm moving through, this progress bar is getting updated. So I can open this up again at any page and see what I've completed. Next step here is going to be important to make sure we put dependents in. This is going to be key, especially if the employee is considering adding their dependents to the coverage. But it's also important if maybe they're going to be a beneficiary to the life insurance, and or maybe down the road, they might end up being a person they want to add due to a life event. So those are all reasons that it's great to add the dependents in here. So when I move into the next space, it's going to be my benefit structure. Now, my first benefit is going to be medical. They're all going to be shaped each page very similar. We have the ability to put in verbiage up at the top here. So we can change this to communicate whatever you choose. We've kept this short and simple here, but we can change it. We also see helpful resources. So this is going to be where we're going to incorporate those SBCs, carrier summaries, all of that good stuff that the employee might want to look at when they're making their decision. Now, the shape of this page allows me to enroll or pick from 2 medical plans, and it's showing me my cost per pay period. So what this has done behind the scenes is take into account the premiums. It's also taken into account the contributions from the employer. So now it's showing the employee their cost per pay period. Now, if I come up to this middle section here and decide I want to include my child, I can see the ability to play with this a little bit. Maybe you're sitting next to your spouse and you're making the financial decisions together about what makes most sense for the family. So this is a great way for them to be able to play with this, toggle with the system a little bit, and make that decision that's best for them. Now, for the medical, dental, and vision, we have the ability to enable a details and compare tab. Now, the details tab is going to take the summary of the plan and essentially embed it in the screen so they can see the plan details another way. Now, also, we're going to have the compare feature to use if we want to, but this is going to put my 2 plans side by side. It makes it a lot simpler to look over a plan detail comparison in this venue versus opening up different summaries and having to go back and forth. Makes that review a lot simpler. Now, if the plan allows the employee to decline the coverage, they'll be able to do so, and they can click where it says they don't want the benefit, and they'll indicate their reason as why. All of those decline reasons are kept in the system, so we can report on them. It's in the record. It doesn't get lost. Now, in my case, I'm going to go ahead and select this HSA compatible plan, so now I can hit save and continue. Now, you'll see as we're moving along here, this plan in particular that comes up next was by design, actually. So one of the beauties of a system like this is we can set it up so the plan rules come into play. So for instance, the medical plan I chose was a high deductible health plan, which allows me to enroll in the HSA. So if I would have chosen the other medical plan, I would not be able to enroll in the HSA, and the system would tell me that. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to streamline that enrollment process. Sometimes with paper, we're handing out paper for all the plans, even though they might not need to fill them all out. Maybe they're not eligible based on what they choose. So this allows us to streamline that and make sure they're only enrolling in what they're supposed to. We can apply rules for HSA, FSA, those sorts of things. Now, the HSA in particular, we've incorporated the IRS limit and any employer contribution as well. All right, so we're going to keep moving along. I've gone through some of the core of this. So the next 2 pages, the dental and vision, are going to look much like we saw with the medical. So we'll still have all those same options there. Can play with this a little bit, see what's going to happen with my cost, and go ahead and pick my plan. Now with the vision, it's going to look much like we just saw, but I'm going to go ahead and decline this coverage so you see what that looks like when we finish. Okay. It's going to say I don't want the benefit and I'm covered under spouse. The system's going to go ahead and move me along to the next benefit, just in sequential order here. My last 2 benefits are going to be on disability and voluntary life. The intent with this page is to communicate employer paid coverages. Those that are employer paid and required, we want to make sure the employee realizes they have the coverage, but we also want to make sure they know there's no cost. And the third intent in this page is to auto-select the plan and take away the ability to decline the coverage. That way, on those employer-paid coverages, we make sure they know they have it, but we're going to make sure that enrollment is going to get done. It's not going to fall through the cracks, and those required plans, they get enrolled. We do this on typically basic life insurance, STD, LTD. Those are standard coverages where we do, we construct it very similar to this. Now, when we're talking about voluntary life insurance, that's the last component here as far as the benefits go. That can be a little tricky just because we have rules around the plan. Now, in my case, if I go ahead and move along this slide bar here, and I kind of do some investigation on what the volume and premium is going to be, that's no problem. I can play with this. But the minute I go above the guaranteed issue, the system knows that, and it's going to append a certain amount of coverage based on your rules. Now, what's also nice about this is as soon as I choose this coverage above guaranteed issue, we're going to see a special message appear letting the employee know their next steps, which in this case might be to fill out an evidence of insurability form. So we can go ahead and where we're seeing this highlighted here, we can put in the document, make it a PDF, a Word document. We can even place the carrier link in there if applicable. So those are all things we can make sure to have in there. With voluntary life, sometimes just that disclosure side of things is a challenge. So this allows us to make sure those steps are incorporated and the employees are given direction on what to do. Now, I have two more steps left here. First one is beneficiaries. If we have that life insurance there, we want to make sure we require the primary beneficiary. And I'm going to go ahead and pop a child in here for the beneficiary, but they can choose a different person or entity if they would like to. Now, when I choose my child here, I'm going to have to put in that allocation. I'm making this one at 100%. However, if more than one person is placed in here, that total has to equal 100%. Okay, so we're going to make sure that's in there. So we are to our last step here, and that's reviewing our benefits. We're going to see a little disclosure here. We can change the verbiage here if it's something you want to get a little more specific on, but this is some default language that will be in the system. And they're going to be able to go ahead and review all of their plans, carrier, tier, effective date, cost. They'll see them all lumped together in their enrolled plans first, along with the total cost per pay period. Now, if they have dependents or HSA, FSA, or even any declined coverages, they're going to see that listed here as well. So they will see a full rundown of all the plans they've been offered. Now, if they review that and they're good to go, they're going to click to sign. Now, every system has a little bit different way they finish out enrollments. In this one, when I click to sign, what it's actually doing is completing the enrollment and producing a date and time stamp for that completion. So this employee has actually finished their enrollment. At this point, they could print off their summary if they would like to, and they could go ahead and move to their next task. Now, this particular employee has a 30-day window. So at this point, maybe a spouse comes in, they didn't do a social right, or they didn't add the child to the dental. They could jump right back in here and make a change. Otherwise, they could go ahead and dismiss. They go back to their home page. Now, this person is still within that 30-day window. So they could come in here at any point to make any changes. Now, this person has finished enrollment. We have a few things that can come out of the system here. Number one would be an email that can go to the employee, letting them know enrollment is complete. This is customizable too, so we can change the verbiage there. That's email number one. But behind the scenes, there are two other emails that can generate. Number one is an email to our One Digital team. So our One Digital team is aware of any changes, adds, terminations, anything that's gone on that reflects changes needing to be made at the carrier level. One Digital will be made aware. The third email will be the email to the HR team at each company. And what that's going to do is have the same intent as the one that goes to our team, but it's letting you know what has gone on in the system so that you have the ability then to update the payroll system with any changes or terms that need to be updated. Okay, so we're going to make sure to include communication to everybody, HR, our team, and to the employee. Okay. Now, when we're back on that employee's homepage, there are a few things they can always get access to. Certainly, they can see their profile. In my case, I'm able to edit my address. Again, this is a change in the system that would result in an email that goes to our team at One Digital, and it also goes to HR so that if that's an updated payroll that needs to be done, you're made aware of the change. Now, the employee can also see the document library. So this is going to show us enrolled plans. This is going to allow the employee to come in and see their summaries and everything they're enrolled in here in this first bucket. The second thing is going to be, if you would like to place general HR documents in here, you can use that section as well. And then this section just goes through all the plans they're eligible for, so they can get access to those too. So some of those more common questions you might get: what's my summary, what's my deductible? The employee can come in here and see their breakdown of their summary, effective date, cost. But we can also enable a full details link, which is going to incorporate more plan details: group number, coverage period, cost. It's also going to include the summary of the plan. Maybe the employee's at the doc's office and they can't remember deductible or copay. This is a great place where they can reference, where maybe it's after business hours. They're in the emergency room. They can't recall what their copay or deductible is. This is a space that they can come to at any time. Okay. Additionally, the employee can see if you want it visible. There is an employee directory that can be visible. There is an org chart that can be visible. Those are things that can be enabled into the system here. And we can also enable a quick links area. So this could be a payroll link. It could be member login to the carriers, provider search links, anything that you think the employees probably more frequently ask you for, and you want those at their fingertips all hours of the day and night. Now, there also is a section where we can enable and we can mark certain documents as compliance documents. So that way, if there is something, maybe a HIPAA notice, creditable coverage notice, that you want things out there and disclosed for compliance reasons, we can mark them as compliance documents and have them placed here in the center of the page. Okay. Now, there is one more section that can be visible. It's a total comp statement. I'm going to show that to you under a different employee just so you get the full scope. But I did want to stop for a moment, just let you take a quick glance at some of these tools here. I'm going to pop back over to the HR side in just a moment, but this should give you a good frame of reference for what the employee is going to have access to 24/7 here. Okay. Now, when we go ahead and jump back to the HR side where we started, I'm going to go ahead and open up a comp statement and show you what that looks like. The idea with the comp statement, when you saw the employee going through their enrollment choices, you saw that they saw their cost. They did not see what the employer was paying to the coverage. So the comp statement, the intent of this is to highlight what the employer is paying into the contribution on an annual basis. When we see this page, it's going to show employee and employer dollar figures here. Now, we have some of our groups that are super generous in what they pay towards the coverages. This is a great way to highlight that and make sure the employee is aware how much you have invested in them. Now, page 1 is going to show those numbers. Page 2 is going to take those dollar figures, put it into 2 pie charts. The first one breaks out each individual item. And the second one is going to go ahead and lump together employee and lump together employer contributions. So again, just visually showing how much that employer has contributed. Now, a couple things around this comp statement. Number 1, it can be shown on the employee's homepage. So we see it here with a tile. It can be visible all year round. Some of the groups I speak to would prefer not to have it visible. Maybe they do it in another venue through payroll, a hidden paycheck. Or maybe they would prefer to highlight this maybe on a one-on-one basis. Maybe you're having an annual performance meeting with an employee and you like to use that time on that one-on-one to highlight that comp statement. If that's the case, we can turn off the comp statement from the employee perspective. Regardless, if the employee sees it or does not see it, you as HR can always go into the report section here up at the top, and you can generate the comp statements at your leisure. So you can come in here and generate for the whole staff or a whole batch of them, or you can come in here and go ahead and search up one employee and just generate theirs. So it allows you to kind of use that tool to the capacity that you would like to. If you think it's beneficial to have that comp statement visible all year round, we can leave it on. If you would prefer to have it off and then you just highlight this when you deem appropriate, we could do that as well. Now, a couple other things here back on the HR side I want to highlight before we open for questions. Number one is taking a look at the employee record. So when I come into my HR side of things and I'm going to look somebody up here, you're going to see essentially an electronic file cabinet on that employee, some key areas. If you were managing enrollment on behalf of an employee, you could just jump in here and do so. If for some reason you need to, you'll notice it's going to look just like what the employee experiences. So basically a mirror image. Now also from the HR side here, you see the ability to terminate employment. When I click into this, what you're going to see is the update of an address if it needs to be. And then in my next screen, I'm going to put in my term date and my reason. Okay? So terms are pretty simple there in that respect. Okay. Now the other piece in here is going to be unlocking enrollment. I'm sure you've all been in the scenario where you gave employees X amount of days to do their enrollment and they didn't do it in time. So this allows you to have the control at your fingertips to open up the system for that particular employee for up to 14 days. So when you have those stragglers and you just want to open it up for them, maybe for 2 days to get into the system, you can do so. That puts the control in your hands there. We're not opening it up to the whole staff. It's just to that one person. You certainly can see their profile here. If you needed to make any changes, you could do so. I'm going to skip over the update benefits here for just a moment, and then you're actually going to be able to see their summary. So this is going to break down all of those coverage offerings, much like we saw when they finished enrollment. You'll see all of the lines of coverage here. Additionally, you're going to see the documents the employee has access to, and you see a timeline. I personally love the timeline because it gives you an audit trail. It shows you what's happening in that record from the creation of the record up through the date and time stamp of each enrollment and when they completed enrollment as well. Now, what's also handy is you can see who did each action. So definitely in a situation where we have multiple administrators who have access to the system, it's great to be able to see this timeline and be able to see that audit of who's doing what changes in the system here. Now, when we talk about life events, it's another reason an employee can come in here. I'm going to jump into another employee's record. The employee who has a life event, it can be managed one of two ways. You can direct the employee to go to their portal, and they can go ahead and click where it says life events. When they do so, they're going to start this process of requesting a plan change based on their applied life events here. Now, if the employee comes through the system, the life event itself is pended in the system. You as HR will receive a notification that's going to let you know there's a life event to review. You as HR will then have the authority to come into the system and approve or reject the life event request. So the nice thing about a system like this is we're going to safeguard those life events. We're going to make sure the employees can't make changes without it coming through HR first. And we at One Digital are not going to change coverages unless you approve the change. So that safeguard is going to be in there for the carrier side as well. Now I mentioned this is going to be if the employee initiates the change. Now, you as HR, if you go back into the employee's record, you're always going to be able to see this update benefits area. This is an area where if you wanted to update the benefits for a life event on their behalf, you can. So my example is always this one. I get a call from mom, she's at the hospital and just had her baby, and she's concerned and wants to make sure that child gets added. If you would like to, over the phone, you can come into their record and add that child at that time for them. So the kind of takeaway here is no matter what the enrollment is, new hire, life event, open enrollment, you do have the ability to manage those on the HR side if you would like to. Now, we always encourage the employee coming in, taking the onus on this, so we have that record keeping, the liability side of things here, but it does allow you that opportunity if you do need it. Okay. One other section I want to highlight for a few minutes here is the report section. The report section is going to give us a bunch of different categories here, and they're going to be broken out into templates or canned reports. One section that is particularly popular is the change history reports, and that's going to allow us to go ahead and pick a template. You see here where I have the ability to pick my date range. Now the template's already created. We have the headers that are already built in this report, but I can also choose a couple others if I would like to here. I'm going to generate that report. The templates are going to show me the report embedded in the screen here where I can take a look at it, and then I can export out to CSV or Excel. All these template reports work very similar. The demographic report here, again, I'm going to put in my date range, and then it's going to allow me of these fields. Maybe I don't need the county, but this particular one is going to show me the old value, the new value, and what changed, and who did it as well. So this is another popular report in here. Now, when I'm in here also, one of the things I'm able to do, you see a lot of different categories of canned reports. Many of the groups I speak to end up coming in here, and once you get your group access, you play with the reports, you figure out which ones are your favorite. But at the end of the day, if any of you would like to create your own report, you can do so up here. Now, this row-based report basically allows me to choose any fields in the system here. So under the employee data, there's quite a bit I can choose from. I'm going to go ahead and pick, I want the fields just from this first section. Now I also have fields under enrollment, which is going to incorporate carriers, effective date, cost, anything related to the benefit side here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select this first batch. Now once I've picked all my fields, I can actually reorder them here and do some of that manipulation. So I'm going to reorder. You'll notice here I can go ahead and move this stuff around as I need to. Once that part is ready, I have more options here over to the right. I can include dependents if I would like to. I can also come down here and further filter if we have classes, divisions, offices built in here, carriers. I can pick from that as well. The takeaway is this is going to allow you to filter this just as you need. Now, once I've picked all of my options here, I can click View on the left-hand side. It's going to, again, much like those templates, it's going to show me the report embedded in the screen. That way I can look at it, check it out, make sure it has everything I want. And then I can download to Excel here. Now, I created this report. I picked my headers, I did my filters. If I'm going to need this report again, what's nice is I can actually save it. And this is going to allow me to save my template. So I don't have to go through that process of picking the fields, picking my filters. I don't have to do that over again. Once I save it, it's actually going to live in the saved reports area. And when I click to view and manage my saved reports, I see the templates that I've created and saved. Now, a bonus to this is that if there are multiple administrators using the system here, then you can share your template with coworkers that have access to the report section. And that way, you're not all reinventing the wheel. If it's a template you created that would be helpful to a coworker, you can share that off to another admin. Okay. So there's one other section I want to mention, and that is voluntary life insurance. Now, I went through as the employee and I picked an amount that was pended. I went over guaranteed issue. So now we're waiting on the carrier to tell us yes or no. Once you have received the notification from the carrier that they have accepted or declined the voluntary life coverage, then what you want to do is click into where it says Review Pending E of I. This is going to show me any of the employees that have pending coverage. This is the one from today. Once you do hear back from the carrier, you want to click where it says Pending. This is basically updating the system with what the carrier has said. So I'm going to say the carrier approved the coverage. Maybe they only approved $85,000, and maybe it's effective tomorrow. So this is going to update the employee's record with their coverages. It's going to take them off this pended list. I can actually go into my approved if I would like to, and we're going to see, let's see, my employee today is right here. Now what this has done is update their record. It's also generated a notice that goes to you as HR and a notice that goes to our team as well. So all the appropriate parties are made aware of any of the changes in here. Okay. Now, I went through and walked you through some of those workflows, how to add an employee, what they might experience, and then coming back to the HR side to take a look at some of the tools you have at your fingertips, reports, the employee record, total comp statements, the quick updating of E of I of evidence of insurability where that applies. But a couple other things that you could take advantage of if it's something that you're interested in. Number one, we do have a task area that incorporates some basic onboarding tasks in here. That is something, depending on how you're accomplishing those tasks today, whether it's through payroll, whether it's a paper process, those are things you might want to take advantage of. It's a basic onboarding feature, so it's a great place to start if you're not already in a space that's doing electronic onboarding. Okay? And you're not seeing it in my demo site here, but there is the option to take advantage of a PTO feature in here too. So again, a basic PTO policy, if that's something you're in need of to make the next step and make that more electronic, there is an option to use a PTO module in here as well. Again, that will vary based on what tools you're using today, who you're using for payroll, your basic needs and wants there. It's all going to vary. The core of the system, which we like to show here, is the benefit enrollment. We have found extreme value in this system. Its robust ability to set different classes, to incorporate different rules, and to allow you to come here. It's quite user-friendly from the HR side and employee side, hoping you saw that through the demonstration. And at the end of it all, you know, when it comes down to the reporting time, the quoting time, and our One Digital team is in need of a census, and we go through this process every year where you're regenerating that employee census to get quotes. Well, that is a task that won't need to be done anymore, because our team will be able to access your enrollment through the system here as well. As an added bonus there as far as this report section. Now, those are some other key features there. Certainly, Employee Navigator does have some integration options with certain payroll companies. So I want to put that out there just as a takeaway. Depending on who your payroll company is, there might be an option to do some integration there. Probably, as you folks have seen, the industry has been making great strides in being able to integrate with certain payroll companies and ramp up that ability no matter what the group size. So we see a lot of strides being made there. So that might be an option, again, depending on where you are and who you're using today. So that's something to think about as well. But ultimately, at its core, this is a fantastic tool for the benefit enrollment, allowing you a very easy way to come in and off the system, add term employees, and then giving the employees that ownership in making their decisions from start to finish. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna unmute here. I'm gonna unmute the system and allow folks to have a few minutes if you wanna jump in and ask some questions. I think Rick wanted to go ahead and chime in for just a moment here. So Rick, was there anything you wanted to add?
Thanks, Kristen. I wanted to thank you for putting on a great demonstration. Also thank everybody that took the time to join today. Kristen pretty much went over everything, but I want to remind you, if you have any questions, you can reach out to your account manager and we can work with you one-on-one to answer any remaining questions that you have. And then the only other thing that I wanted to mention is we provide the base system at no cost to our clients. So everything that Kristen went over today, there's no charge to you to use the system. If you want to talk about some other integrations, she talked about payroll, which sometimes the payroll carriers might have a charge on their end. There's also integrations with the insurance companies and the COBRA vendors. So there are some bells and whistles that we may be able to add on. And again, just reach out to your account manager after the meeting if you have any questions. And at that point, I'd like to just open it up if anybody on the line has any remaining questions that they'd like answered.
Sure. I actually had one come through on the chat here. They asked about changing somebody from an active employee to a retiree. We do have the ability to set up different classes in the system. So you can set up a retiree class. It really comes down, it's really subjective on how you want to use the system. Some of the groups I speak to use the retiree, they make that class for retirees and they just manually update the retiree coverage in the system. Some allow their retirees to come into the system and log in and make their choices. So, but we do have the ability to create that class in there as well. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in and ask any questions, thoughts, concerns, anything at all? Okay. All right. Well, I hope that was a good overview of the system, gave you some good context on what it could provide and offer you and the employees. Definitely, as Rick said, if you have any questions or thoughts or want to take a closer look at things, please do reach out to your account manager and they can talk with you more about it. There was also a note here, steps for salary changes. So when we go into the employee, and I will say one thing to keep in mind, and I'm sure your account manager can speak to your specific benefits, but when we go into an employee's record, you're going to be able to go into their profile, which is going to allow you to update their compensation here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this system is used primarily around your benefit structure. So keep in mind, when you have salary-based life insurance or disability coverage, typically what you see in the policy is the process for when you need to make salary changes that reflect changes in the coverage. So, for instance, some policies might say once a year you send in your salary increases and changes, and the plan will, the volumes and the coverage will update accordingly. Other ones say you need to send in the salary change at the anniversary time of the employee. So that's important to know when you're updating the system and making sure that the salaries are updated, is that when the salary change is going to reflect a benefit change as well. Okay, we will have the rules in the system that apply for those plans, but this is the area where you would come in and edit that salary. I hope that answers the question there for you. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I really do hope this was helpful, folks. Definitely reach out to your account managers with any thoughts or questions. And I appreciate you guys taking the time today. I know with all that's going on, we certainly have a lot on our plate, and I appreciate you taking the time. So I hope everyone has a great rest of the week here, and you all take care.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, Rick.
Bye.
Oh, no problem. You guys have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.